Welcome to the Conjugate Nation podcast.
Hello, everybody. We are on episode 20, and with us we've got Justin Medeiros today. Finally,
dude, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
episode
cheers,
20.
man.
It's gonna be the biggest one yet.
Yeah, it probably is actually. It probably is true. I guess for anyone who doesn't know or doesn't know exactly, Justin's two-time fittest man on earth, veteran in the sport of CrossFit. Having just completed his CrossFit Games, six CrossFit Games this last summer.
It's crazy.
Coming back from Scotland a couple weeks ago in his fourth time at the Rogue Invitational. And I was looking, actually, I realized like the 4 times at Rogue, 2 first place finishes, second place finish. Not so bad.
Yeah. Not so bad.
And I'm going to be very biased, but having been part of his team since 2020, given his accolades and the time I spent knowing him, I would say he's one of the humblest and highest quality guys in the space. He's a delight to work with. I
appreciate that, Jesse.
Yeah, right? I know.
Yeah.
I know. And he's got his own podcast with Dallin Pepper, Jason Hopper, James Sprague.
James Sprague is he's been on it now. We're still on the trial error. I told him we'll give him till the new year to see if the people like him, and then we'll vote him in.
There you go.
No, he's been great, man. He's a part of it for sure.
And you guys are going, I think you're at episode 43 done now. So by the time this airs, you're probably going to be close to episode 50.
We pretty much go live every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, unless there's competitions. Competitions always throws a big wrench in it, but that's what we try to do every week. So try to be a little bit consistent. Live kind of makes it easier because then we don't have to like edit it or anything like that. But it's been fun. I think people have been enjoying it, and it's cool kind of getting to like talk to the other athletes, because I feel like my first few years in the area, I kind of took the Matt Fraser's approach and didn't talk to anybody. So it's kind of been fun to at least communicate with other athletes, see what they've been up to. And yeah, it's been fun.
And then you've also got, 4 of the top, 7 or higher fittest people on that podcast.
It is pretty crazy. At Rogue, we did a bet. Whoever got last place out of us had to eat a Carolina Reaper pepper. And we couldn't get our hands on a pepper, but they did like the 1 chip challenge, which has like Carolina Reaper peppers on it. And Jason lost, and he got 6th at Rogue. So yeah. It's pretty crazy, but it's been fun.
So I watched that episode on Monday night. I was like, came in late. I was like, I have to watch at least some of this before I go to bed.
It did not disappoint.
100% worth it. Yeah, that first 20 minutes is fantastic. Just when you think he's got through it, it just doubles down and wipes. And just the classic, like, oh man, there's his partner coming on and just be like, she's had it. You could see she's had enough of you guys. She's had enough of this like joke. She's had enough. It just like gets over. I was surprised you actually kept it going. I thought she was going to shut it down and be like, that's it. He's done.
Yeah, we ate it live on our podcast, so that made it pretty good because there's nowhere to hide when it's live. But
yeah, well, he did leave for a while.
he did leave,
but he did rally and come back strong.
He did. It was pretty great.
How's recovery been?
It's been good. I mean, good, but not good, I guess. I think I've taken about 2 weeks off. I've done a little bit of fitness in that time. Nothing crazy, definitely no programming or anything like that. Just a couple class workouts, and things of that sort. But did honestly a bunch of like GoWOD and stretching and mobility, which I was like, okay, like I'm going to get back into training and feel pretty good. But honestly, like I feel like my body's just really inflamed. And I think just the lack of movement it still makes it like I feel better when I'm moving, So I think just trying to get back into that today, I did like a 40-minute threshold EMOM into some interval workouts, and then did some abs to kind of get back into it. And I already just feel better now that my body's just in movement. But even though I was like stretching and just kind of trying to eat healthy and do the things, like nothing beats just like movement, kind of greasing that groove. So, but yeah, it feels good to get back into it. And I'm already 4 weeks out from another comp. So, gonna ramp back up pretty hard for this one.
Yep. I found like CrossFit athletes seem to be the ones that need to move more than anybody else. And I think the more movement you have, the more you need movement, So like when Sam Briggs used to come out to my gym, like she was one of the few people that trained 7 days a week. Like the seventh day wasn't usually like, it wasn't like as hard of movements or so, but it needed like blood flow, it needed movement. And it was interesting when I started doing like the conjugate system with CrossFit athletes, in powerlifting, we'd taper for 3 weeks, right? We'd have basically 2 weeks of taper, a week off, and then we'd have our competition. And CrossFit athletes can't do that. Like they need to run closer to the competition, or they're not ready to go by the time competition days here. And it's not that you're not recovered, it's just the fact that they need movement so bad, need that blood flow and that movement, drastically. And so it was a very interesting thing for me when I went into working with CrossFit athletes, because it was totally different than powerlifting, and I would have thought it would have been the opposite way around. I would have thought you guys needed more recovery, but it's just the fact that you guys get in so many positions and so many different angles and work from so many different positions that you guys need access to all those positions. You need to make sure that you have full access to your joints, your tissue, that you got the blood flow so everything glides real well. It definitely makes a big difference for you guys.
Yeah, I'd be curious. Like, I know, I obviously know a lot of how Jesse kind of like incorporates like the conjugate like method like into our training and things like that. But at least from like the CrossFit side of things, like normally my best training day is Friday. I take Mondays completely off and Thursdays active rest, and I always feel better coming off my active rest day than like my day of complete rest. The day of complete rest, I think, is more for like mental stuff, just having like a complete break outside the gym. But at least how my body's feeling, like I always feel better coming off of Thursdays. Like, because I know Jesse, he like you guys do kind of that like zone 2 day or kind of movement day, right? Like with your guys' stuff, is that like all of like kind of conjugate, or do you guys program that well as too? And or do you guys feel better with lifting stuff coming off like a complete day of rest?
I mean, we put those conditioning. Yeah, we have those 2 conditioning days or accessory days in between like primaries. And yeah, for sure. I think our athletes in general would find that they both get better results and just like recover faster with just that movement in there, like bit of machine work that's quick to recover from, a little bit of light accessory given like, anything specific they're working on, and then back into the next day, but keeping those sessions like 45 minutes or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, it seems hard too. Like, I'd love to hear your opinion, because with Carlene was going through as an individual, there were like very designated seasons. You had a off season, you had opens, you had regionals, you had games where, you went games, World's Fittest Project, Wadapalooza, World's Fittest Project again, right? Rogue. So you've had 5 events. Yeah. Like, how do you find managing like recovery now, that the kind of the CrossFit or hybrid athlete kind of environment's changed?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I think one thing that like we as a team did well was like plan that out from the very beginning of the year. Like we realized what was ahead and kind of knew that. I think sometimes like when you kind of have the game circled as like your one competition of the year, like getting into like May, you kind of want to start like ramping things up, and like the June and July is a pretty intense time of training. And then we probably do a little bit of a bigger taper leading into the games. And then I normally take like a month off, like after the games. Like I need it like mentally, physically, kind of all those things to rejuvenate. But this year, we had like the open, and then there was like a bunch of semifinals in between that. We had the online semis, a World Fitness Project, and then like the games, and then obviously those competitions you just rattled out. And I normally compete 3 times a year. This time was like 9. And I think for us was trying to just build the base, kind of starting in the off season and have a nice slow ramp up. I think, like Jesse said, I've been doing this for 6 years now. It's kind of weird to be introduced as like a veteran. I still kind of view myself as the young guy, but that's definitely not the case anymore. And I think just like realizing that it was really nice, because going into Rogue, surprisingly, like I felt really good going in. I think most of the competitions that I did this year, the past 2 years haven't been like what I've wanted, like result wise on the competition floor. I've just had like some injuries and some other things going on. And this year I was like, finally felt like I was able to train consistently. I was healthy, but I felt like I was just a little bit behind the curve. And I was nervous with all the volume if I was going to get hurt, this or that. And I think we did such a good job of building. And when I was leading into Rogue, I was like, hey, like I'm feeling pretty good right now. And if I had to like call my shot, like this is going to be my best competition of the year, and being able to hit it and feel as good as I did gave me a lot of confidence, because I think I was probably, I mean, Jesse, you can kind of back this up because you guys do my programming, but I feel like this was a little bit less volume of a year than we've had in the past. And I haven't really had any big chunks of time off. I was just trying to be and have like consistent training. Like these past 2 weeks was probably the biggest set of time that I've had off, right, Jesse?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, yeah, dude, it's that tricky balance of like trying to find that sweet spot between like what do you need to get accomplished to set the athlete up for success, and then how much recovery you can get, because like, I mean, that game is spent so largely on how well the athlete recovers. It's only as I mean, training is only as valuable as you can recover from it and be able to continue those efforts, both physically and mentally, especially in the sport of CrossFit. Like, I mean, the demands on athletes, like, I mean, you think about event 8, event 9 at Rogue a couple weeks ago, and I mean, you guys got off the floor and they're like, you guys have 30 minutes.
Yeah.
As a 30-minute turnaround. You do that event 8. We did that in classes last week, and people were ruined, like ruined from it. And I was like, picture, if you will, you get 30 minutes rest, and then you do a sandbag echo bike event that really matters. But the outcome really matters.
And the 7 events that was before it. Yeah.
Totally,
I mean, I'd love to, like dig into Conjugate, and can't wait to hear your experience with it. But that Rogue event, I mean, I think we should kind of dig into that a little bit. That was an awesome event. I think when you talk about Conjugate, the ability to see the strongman and all the different implements, not only they used, but you guys had tons of different implements. So from like a spectator from afar, it looked like it was just an awesome event. Obviously, the guys' competition field right now is just super fun to watch. It's like any given Sunday. It could be any one of you guys. And obviously on the female side, super competitive. And then, just watching the strongman between, like, well, how was your experience there this year?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely one of my favorite events out of the year. I mean, I'm definitely biased, obviously coming off of a good finish this year, but I really like the thing that made me fall in love with CrossFit and want to be a competitor at the highest level was I volunteered at the 2015 games, and like that year, like that was the first year they had the pig, they had the wheelbarrow, like they had like the sandbags coming down into the tennis stadium, wheelbarrow them across, go up. They had like the I think it was like 2016 and 15, like they had like the snail, like the plow that they had to pull, and this all these different unique equipment that like Rogue can produce. I was like, man, like, dude, I love CrossFit, and like that kind of felt like I could put a little bit of like athleticism into like what we're doing. And you only really see that, I feel like, at the games level. Like CrossFit classes are great and all, but it's kind of fun to kind of put that fitness to use. And coming off the games this year, I felt like we found the fittest person on earth, like no doubt. And you don't have to have all that flashy stuff to find the fittest on earth. But to me, as a competitor, it makes it fun. And Rogue just does an unreal job at that. I mean, they always have something new, something different that we've never done before. And I think that's such an important part of fitness. And to me, finding the fittest on earth, of having that adaptability. Like some of my favorite events from the games was like the event Chaos, that the athletes had no idea what they were doing, the movements, the reps, and they had to walk out there and just do kind of one after another. Just like allows you to make sure that you're comfortable, you know yourself, you know your fitness, you know your pacing. And those workouts too, where they release something, you're like, hey, we have to kind of figure it out right now in the warm-up area, and then go out there and execute. And that was kind of when they introduced like the sideways pegboard last year, and things like that. But Rogue this year was the same thing. I mean, we had like the log, we've done it for a max, and this year we're doing reps with it, so it was really fun just to kind of see all the unique things that they do. Even the run course that they did was kind of like through the crowd, like the energy from it was unreal. And I think from a spectator standpoint and an athlete standpoint, it was absolutely unreal, especially watching the strongman and being able to be in the warm-up area with those guys is insane. Like as CrossFitters warming up for that log event, they're just like, yeah, you just got to put it in your lap, and then you just use the momentum from your hip and you just Viper press it all the way up. And I was like, hey man, like I just don't have that kind of pressing strength. He's like, oh, it's not about the pressing strength. It's just all the momentum you have from the hips. I'm like, I get it, but I just can't. Like it was awesome. They were trying to help, but dude, they're just different beasts, man. But yeah, dude, that event was pretty epic. I mean, the back squat event I think was super cool and unique to have 40 back squats at 315, 40 dumbbell snatches at 100 pounds, and sandbag, kind of like a strongman style workout that was like very CrossFit-y. So it was, yeah, I thought it was all around great event.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Conjugate. I mean, to kind of dig into that, that's the kind of a perfect scenario of someone who's, do you feel like, the programming that Jesse's been providing you with, all those different implements kind of set you up for success in an event like that?
No, 100%. I mean, just even diving into that workout just a little bit, like um, like at the games, we also had a max back squat, and I had so many people, even just in my comments and DMing me when I posted videos of it, like, oh, dude, like every rep was just exactly the same, like we've done lift after lift after lift for the past 6 years now, and everyone's the same, just being so efficient with like the walkout. And Jesse's obviously ingrained it in my head. Like it starts with like how you're bracing, just getting that bar out of the rack, your step back, your bracing. And I think that is shown to the max, especially in those CrossFit workouts where we're doing 40 of those reps. And I think I feel so solid in like my foot placement, where I'm at, like aware of my body. And I think over time, like that makes a huge difference. And even not just squatting, like finding like the weaknesses in my squat. Like for me, it's like my upper back, like my legs are always like really strong. So I think like the past like 4 months, we did so much of the transformer bar.
Mm-hmm.
And like for me, that bar, like especially on the setting, we had it on like the front squat setting, and I think at like level 2.
We moved through a couple different positions.
Yeah. And for me, it was just felt like my upper back was so locked in that I could really just use the strength that I do have in my legs to like move that weight. Where a lot of times for me, especially when I get tired, like you start to get that little bit of bend in my upper back. And especially when doing dumbbell snatches and sandbag cleans after it, it's just like everyone came off the floor saying how wrecked their post chain was. And for me, honestly, like I felt great. Like my legs were tired, and that's what it should have been. So I was really happy with that event. I felt very in control from the very, very beginning. And after round 2, I was like, I knew I wasn't beating Colton and I knew I was beating people how to beat. And I was just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to stick with these guys, because I feel like if I need to, I can really put the hammer down if one of these guys tries to like sprint ahead. And I think workouts like that, definitely I see the biggest value in kind of what we do and how we like train and incorporate in the Conjugate system. I mean, we even had bench press this year. I mean, that event didn't go well for me. I thought that was going to be like a event that I win, but definitely wasn't because of the bench. I just couldn't figure out how to do a sideways pegboard.
It's funny because we, in the sport of powerlifting, we go to competitions and people always say, I know who trains like West Side or Conjugate. Like they all look the same on the squat. They all look the same on the bench and the deadlift. And it's the reduplication in any sport. Reduplication is key, right? Like consistency and reduplication for result and low injury rate. But with all the movements that you do in CrossFit, like you said, breaking apart the squat and finding what your weakness is and fixing it. Everybody at the games was some type of athlete or into sports and into training for an extended period of time before they got into CrossFit. And because of those, you build certain strengths and weaknesses, and everybody is unique into what they start with. They start with their strengths and weaknesses. And so that's the nice thing of the Conjugate system is you can break down, find the weaknesses, address those personally, so each person's different, and you get to reduplicate movement at a high rate, which for years people are just buying in at CrossFit, like saying, "Oh, CrossFit slop," CrossFit slop's fine. Yeah, of course. And to me, I always looked at it as like that just means we haven't figured out how to train optimally to figure out how to get someone to move perfectly underneath any movement that comes in front of them, which is a big, big task. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a daunting task. It's a newer sport, right? But it still doesn't change the fact that we're supposed to move perfect, because that's the least amount of wear and tear in our body and the highest output we can have. So really cool to see a CrossFitter talk about reduplicating position really well and how the training helps reduplicate that position and understanding what that's doing for you, because that is massive and something that a lot of people, are missing. So it's really cool kind of seeing here from you the same type of thing we like to see in other strength sports,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even like looking around at my competitors and stuff, I mean, obviously Dallin and Jason, I get to talk to a lot through our podcast, but I'd like to say that we had a part of it, but it's interesting to see like how much the Conjugate method has kind of been starting to be used in CrossFit. I start to see it so much more before, like when me and Jesse started in 2020, I never heard of it at that point, for one, and then 2, never knew anybody else that did it. And now it kind of, you start to see people doing I think we do it a lot better than everyone else, but I think people are starting to see the value in it and have been incorporating it in as best they can into their training, because like they're starting to see it. Like you look around in competitions and some of the best movers and stuff are incorporating that stuff like into their training.
It's, I mean, it's interesting to think about. I mean, what's your opinion then of how 1 rep maxes in training are viewed now? Like, I know when we first started, there was like I mean, we had good conversations about like why we do 1 RMs every single week. What's the value versus what's the exposure? I mean, it doesn't come up all the time because it's not something like in CrossFit, 1 rep maxes come up often. So are we over training or overemphasizing like a single component? And certainly coming off of like athletes like Matt Fraser, who I think puts the emphasis on not spending a lot of time on those 1 rep maxes. Like, do you feel like that's changing when you talk to like other competitors, or what's your opinion of it? I guess now, 5 years down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I still think when you talk to people, they're still like pretty shocked that like we do a max effort upper and lower every single week. They're like, wait, what? And I think the thing that when I explain to people is like, well, like in a given year, I mean, I'm probably only do the same exact lift 2, 3, like times in a full year, because there's so much variation in it. And I think doing it for 5 or 6 years now, like it's something that I don't even think about. And I think that's been one of the biggest like advantages that I've seen from it, is that when we see it in competition, it's something I've done so many times now that maxing out is not something that like scares me. And I think that like people see Echo on Fran like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, what are my paces? Like, what am I going to do? Like in the first round, they're out there and kind of trying to figure it out, to where when I'm maxing out, like I have a really, really good idea of where I'm at on most of my lifts. And especially like having always 7 lifts to build out, like I feel very, very comfortable getting to where I'm very, very close to what my best is going to be, but then also being able to build out the correct plan that I can adjust if I need, whether that's going heavier than I thought or even lighter than I thought. And I think that's been absolutely huge. And to see at the games this year, I think that was put on display the best, because I might get this wrong, but out of the 10 athletes in the top heat, I think 7 failed their last lift out of 10 in the top heat, which is pretty crazy, honestly. You know, like that should not happen. I mean, I don't
Not on
do
that
very
lift.
many. Yeah. I don't do very many powerlifting meets or anything like that, but I think that's pretty crazy to have 7 athletes all fail their max lift. And then even to see some of the jumps that they were making, like, hey, like my goal was this number, and then the weight that they hit before it and like the jump that they made, I was just like, what is happening? I remember like kind of sitting there and like just like trying to like calm down after my lift, trying to recover, because we have like 3 or 4 minutes before we have to hit another one. You're kind of watching people lift, seeing the numbers that they're making. I'm like, whoa, that was like he made a bigger jump than he did last time, you know? And just seeing those mistakes that people are like, oh, wait, I got to like lock in for my lift now. But yeah, man, it's like, it's almost like really silly mistakes. It's almost like when you see people do like Echo on Fran and then they do the first 21 cows in 35 seconds, you're like, that's not going to work out well for you, you know? And that's like, so like everyone knows that now in CrossFit, but then when you do a max, people make like a bigger jump, let's say, than they did the time before. And like, whoa, like that does, like, that's idiotic as well, you know? So, I like to kind of keep what me and Jesse are doing to ourselves, because when you look around in the warm-up area and on the competition floor to see how far people are away from it, I'm like, they could benefit so much from just having a really solid plan. And I don't want people to realize that, I guess.
Well, you make that plan. You make that plan every week. So yeah, you know how to make adjustments. You know exactly what it should look like. You've mastered that. That's awesome. How many lifts a year do you think you fail or miss?
Man, very, very few.
Yeah, I figured that. I just wanted people to hear that, because you know how many people like just get accustomed to failing lifts.
I wouldn't be crazy to say like, I mean, less than 3. Like, I don't think I fail more than that. I would say like 1 or 2, like a fluke instance, because like normally if I hit my second lift and I'm like, dude, I think that was it. Like I don't load just to fail, you know, like Jesse's always like, hey, if you're loading that weight, like you're hitting that weight. And like, that's always been something that's in my head. And I think people see that and kind of like, well, then how do you know you hit your max? And I'm like, no, I I know I hit my max. Like, trust me. Like, you go watch my last lift at the games. That was my max. And I think we made those jumps exactly. I mean, I remember I hit, what did I hit? Did I hit 505? What did I hit? 500 on the dot? I forgot what I hit at the games. I think it was
It was
505.
over. I think it's 505. Yeah, it was over
Yeah.
500.
And I
Or
remember
500
I
or
hit
more.
I hit like 490 my lift before, and I had like 5s and 2.5s in my hand, and I was just looking at Jesse, or I had a 5, and I was like debating about putting it on, and then he was just like shaking his head, and then I put it on and talking to him after, he's like, just the thought that you picked it up and were thinking about it, he's like, I knew that you had it, and Jesse's watched me hit every single max over the past 5 or 6 years in my training, so he probably knows me just as well as I know me too. So I think that was like really cool to kind of see all that come together, especially at like the biggest stage in our sport.
Well, it's funny because you guys, do maxes pretty regularly. It comes up in some type of competition or some form. And like you said, it seems silly for you to watch the way people take jumps or they approach something. But 6 years ago, it wouldn't have seemed silly because it would have seemed normal because you've been training like everybody else, right? And it's funny that people think training to failure is successful, but to me, you're just teaching yourself to be good at failing. You're regularly visiting failing every week. And you guys have so much to do programming wise on top of just the conjugate stuff, the strength and speed stuff and accessory stuff, that you can't really afford to miss weight. But then I always say, like, how do you know what you're capable of unless you push all the way to the limit without stepping over the limit? And, when you're hitting PRs, like you said, you miss like roughly say 3 in a year, but you're trying to hit a PR every time you're doing this, right? Over 5-6 years. And it's like, no, I know myself better than anybody because I have to take myself to the rag limit every time without going over. I have to make smart decisions in my attempts, but there's no way I'm going to PR this frequently, right? And it's funny how it teaches you mentally how to approach. You got comfortable with maxing because you do it often, so it's not odd to you what it is to them. So they hear, most competitors are going to hear max, and they're going to, even if they're strong, they're going to stress a little bit about it because it's a little bit of an unknown. Like, sure, I can max, but how can I do, what can I hit after this many days of competition or this many events? How worn out am I? How far did I travel? All these things come up, but since we're used to so many different types of implements and so many different types of variations, that you learn how to go on how your body feels, like how fast are you moving the bar, are you maintaining good position, and all those things, right? And you just have your equation, and then you can put that in at the day of the competition, which is awesome. It's great to see that it's transferring over for you guys, and I see it in the world of powerlifting all the time. I see these guys that have no clue why they missed. I mean, I could tell them why they missed, and I don't train them, but they don't know why they're missing.
Now the warm up area of the games is definitely a rodeo backstage. Like, there's definitely some people warming up where you're just like mouth open, watching, be like, I don't know what happens when they get out there. Like, anything seems possible.
Mm-hmm. Even like people like hit more than what they're gonna walk out there and start at.
Yeah.
Like, that's like a very, very common thing that you see all the time.
Yeah,
like,
run the marathon
like,
a couple days before you need to run the marathon.
Yeah, it was just
to make sure you can do it.
Okay, so you're gonna like go less than that, hit that, then hit the weight that you already hit, and then go for something. It was just like, man, it's
first time I showed up to regionals for CrossFit, and I'm in the warm-up room with one of my athletes, and I see an athlete, they're doing like a clean and jerk ladder is what they're warming up for, and the person warms up to like the second to last lift that you're gonna have to hit, right? And so I asked the coach afterwards, their coach, I said, why'd you work up that heavy? And he said, oh, well, I need to make sure like I could build confidence with my athlete. And I'm sitting there going, wasn't that the whole year of training before you got here? Like, if you're looking for confidence at the competition that day, that's scary. That's a stress. Like, I want to feel confident before I get there, And it's funny because my athletes just warmed up to the lift before their first attempt that they went out on, right? Because it's like, well, if my athlete has 10 attempts on a ladder and I think I can hit the last one, don't I have 9 attempts before that last one coming up that they can warm up on? Like, they hit the warm-ups until the first opener and then go, right? It was really interesting to me because, you look at like how many events are at the games, and if everybody does something like that before they actually start that event, they're wearing themselves out, man. That is a lot of work already to begin with.
No, 100%. I mean, you once you get over, especially like 90%, and you hit a lift, like, dude, you're you don't got too many more lifts like left, you know? Yeah. And you see, it's
exposure to that as well, I think, right? Like, I think training it frequently teaches athlete optimal for walking out and re-racking a bar, which then makes them more likely to succeed on those maxes and get a true 1 rep max. And then also having that experience of building plans week in, week out for different bars. I mean, the challenge of stepping up to a different bar all the time. I mean, Justin's had that transformer bar for a while, but we really only worked it hard this last like 5-6 months. And then that challenge of like, hey, what happens if you move this? And then you have to go by feel, like you build a plan, but it's still like adjusting the small pieces along the way. So, I mean, the idea is when you come across something in competition you're unfamiliar with, that you understand the feel, like you still build a plan, but you also know the feel along the way of like, hey, is this how a lift 5 should feel? Do I need to rally a little harder? You know, what can I adjust to get a more optimal result? Or do I have to reshape my plan? And I think exposure is lower then, because I feel like one of the concerns people have with maxing out frequently is risk of injury and the attacks on the nervous system. But I mean, Justin, I don't think we've had any setbacks, issues, injuries ever in 5 years on like a 1RM. And the nervous system
much better about max effort days than I do dynamic effort days.
For sure.
I feel much better. I mean, I see if I have a workout after a max effort day, I'm like, cool. And I do a dynamic effort lower, and then I got like some echo bike intervals after. I'm just like, no.
Yeah, right.
I am not looking forward to that at all. But yeah.
Justin made the comment that people, when they hear you max, they kind of get, as frequently as you do, they kind of look at you like that's a little weird, right? And I think the problem is they view, if they added 1 rep maxes every week to their training, the way they execute a lift, the way they set up their training, they're like, I wouldn't be able to hold up. You're correct. You will not be able to hold up. You have to train and very rarely miss. You want to fully recover from the lifts that you're taking. Justin was talking about the attempts and percentages that you take on maxes. If you don't know what those are, yes, you would get hurt if you try to max out every week the way he's doing it. What people don't understand is they're looking through the lens of their understanding and knowledge and the execution that they have and the way they train. And yes, it will not work out that way. It works out the way we lay it out. We don't like to miss weights. We try to avoid missing anything as much as possible. We have percentages that we hit. We have the amount of attempts. We never take bigger attempts after, say we've taken 3-4 jumps. We don't jump bigger. We do the same or smaller. And so all these things that Justin automatically is now just permanently in his head when he's at a competition, like, okay, here's how I feel. Maybe that was 90%. I have 2 more attempts in me. Here's the jumps I can take. Here's what I have available to me in my jumps. And here's what I feel like I can be 100% successful with. And then Justin is adding to his, what we call total. Like in a powerlifting meet, you call it a total, but at a CrossFit event, he adds to add to the total of his points scored, right? So if he takes a 30-pound jump in a squat and barely misses it, well, he lost 30 pounds on that total, which how many places is that? How many points was that? It would be better off, even if he took a 5-pound jump, if it put him ahead of one more person, he's in the points now. That's better than missing 30 pounds, right? But, for him to know roughly exactly where he's at all times, then he can nudge himself as close to that line as possible, get as many points as possible without losing any. And, people think that they see these big powerlifters. Poor powerlifters miss weights all the time. Really good ones, they hit big weight, but they're making the majority of their lifts all the time because they have to add to that total. And just like Justin has to add to his,
Yeah, I think one of the things that I changed, like from like at least like how I viewed maxing was like a true 1 rep max looks ugly. Like in my head, like as a CrossFitter, like a 1 rep max deadlift or a back squat or a clean, like I'm always like rounded or doing these things. And those were just kind of like, well, yeah, if I 1 rep maxed every week, like that, I'm going to hurt myself because that's what 1 rep maxes are, because you're pushing yourself to that limit. Because like in my head, I'm like, well, when you're at those max weight, I'm not going to be able to hold perfect position. But what I've learned over the past 5 or 6 years, I look at some of my maxes and like those positions don't change. And I think that's one of like the most crazy realizations or things that I've just seen. I'm like, no, that was like a true 1 rep max, but like nothing broke down. And that's probably why my numbers continually move to go up, because I'm getting stronger and holding those positions, and I'm not all the energy that I'm putting into the bar, like it's going into the bar. It's not getting dispersed
100%.
other directions or getting pushed into my knees or my back where I'm going to have an injury or something like that. So that's one of the best changes that I've seen in my maxes, because the lifts still look super solid. Don't get me wrong, occasionally I'll have somewhere where I break form, but then that's where, oh, I hit a back squat and my back was rounding. Like, okay, like probably on this next wave, like we're going to pull out the transformer bar and really put an emphasis on my upper back, because that's what's giving out. So it's just been cool to kind of see that process and change. And I've never done programming or anything like that before, but it's kind of cool I can foresee what's coming in my future sometimes when I have those mistakes in my lifts.
So that's the great thing, is one thing I like that you said, because a lot of strength coaches don't understand this, is directing energy in multiple different directions instead of in one direction, in the direction you want that bar to move in that lift. And in powerlifting, we can get on Instagram, we can see a million powerlifters lift heavy weight, but we see a lot of bad technique. But really, you're best in the world reduplicating perfect positions, because at the same time, if you want to lift the most weight you can, the best technique and best position you can have available gives you the highest number that you can potentially get. And since a 1 rep max is the highest form of intensity, he has to max out for Jesse to see breakdowns, because breakdowns might not happen at 90, 95%. It might only happen at 97% on up for Justin. But those same breakdowns that would happen underneath 97% will happen during massive amount of repetition during like a CrossFit WOD too. It doesn't have to be 1 rep max. It just has the intensity has to be there, and the output and the fatigue, right? And you get to the point where you can move in perfect position. That's where we want to eliminate the CrossFit slop, so we have optimal output and all the energy goes to what we're doing. And so it's great to hear that. I was teaching a seminar one time, and I had one of my world record holders in the squatting, and they came up and they were missing a squat about once every 2 years, and they got about 2 inches away from lockout and stopped and just couldn't finish the lift. And Louis Simmons was there at the time, racked the lift, and these people, this is after the seminar that we taught, and Louis said, "Did you notice anything about that athlete's lift?" They were like, "No," and he said, "She missed in perfect position. Not one thing broke down. She didn't drop her chest, didn't lean, forward, didn't shift hips side to side. Literally nothing break, just ran out of steam, completely stopped in perfect position. We grabbed the bar and racked it." So even though it was a miss, she missed as safely as possible, but it showed that the balance was there, that we didn't have a breakdown into areas and muscle groups that we shouldn't be using. Once we have those breakdowns into muscle groups that we shouldn't be using, that's when we're looking at, massive injuries coming our way.
Well, and also too, like I think a big thing with the max effort that people don't realize is that accommodating resistance the specialty bars do as well, but they allow us to really, pull back a little bit on that nervous system demand. So you think about like a max rep with chains, and I would love to hear your opinion on how bands and chains have changed, but you're going to be over your 1 rep max at the top, and then at the bottom, you're going to be 10 to 15% lighter than what your true 1 rep is. So we get really well trained at being able to, drive through those heavy sticking points. Like how is the bands and chains impacted, not just the max lifts, but even your other lifts?
Yeah, I mean, I think all the variation for one with like just Conjugate and CrossFit is like one of the reasons why they go so well together. I've just like kind of just loved that just from doing it, because one of the things I fell in love with CrossFit for was just all the variation. Every day I'm doing something new, and I think that's what you get with Conjugate too. Is like I said, I'm only hitting the same exact lifts, if it only maybe a couple times a year, maybe not even that. And with the bands and chains especially, I think I really enjoy chains. Like that's just something that I feel really good on, which means I need to do more bands, sadly. But it's just been like really interesting, especially like with my deadlift and things like that. Like doing all like the banded work there. I've really felt like a big difference, and especially even like on my squat, like my upper back might be my limiting factor, but that's also shown on my deadlift as well. And incorporating like all the bands, especially all the tension that you get at the top, is just absolutely insane. I like have a home gym here, and I try to rope all my friends into it as I can. And the banded like speed pulls is kind of one of my favorite things to do with people, because they're absolutely shocked every time when they do that first pull. Like, yeah, it'll be 135 on the bar, and they get above their knees, and they're like, they drop it, and they're like, whoa, like I did not expect that at all. So, and your body adapts, and you get right back into it. But I think just that shock of doing it for the very first time, like, oh no, like I can't do that. I remember the first time I maxed out with bands, I like did 135 and I'm like, Jesse, you have a plan built for like over 400 pounds. Like, like how is this like going to work? And obviously we got there, but yeah, it's just been really, really fun. And especially doing it for this long now, we've really found the things that are the most bang for our buck, because I do have to do so much volume and other things that we have been able, like I used to do 4 sessions a week, and now we're down to a max effort upper, max effort lower, and then kind of like a hybrid session for my third. And that's been able to work really, really well for me. But I definitely wouldn't have been able to do what I'm doing now and be where I'm at if I wasn't doing like 2 max effort, like a max effort lower, max effort upper dynamic, and upper and lower. So yeah, it's been cool to kind of see that like progress of it.
How's that felt joint wise? I know for me, like, watching and just being around the community of, these games athletes for, gosh, 15 plus years now. It seemed like as the sport really grew, like the volume just got to be, insane, where it was just like, 3 Metcons a day, and you're just piling on the same volume. And I think, when I started training Carlene and just kind of looking around, it's like, we've got to find some way to offset pattern overload. When you got introduced into Conjugate, I think right after that COVID year to like 2020, did you see any impact on like, hey, like joint, like backs, knees, shoulders, like was any of the stuff like accessory? How did that feel for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was we got one person kicked off, but I like I had the benefit of being 21 years old, when I first started. So I think I was had the ability to train pretty hard and not kind of see those effects. And I think it's more recently where I've kind of seen the benefit of those things, and being able to make sure that I still have that in my training, like those accessory work. I think it's like one of those things where I see other people train, like people see accessory work and they're doing like banded good mornings with like a number 2 or number 3 band. You're like, well, you're not really getting much out of that there, bud. And accessory work's not supposed to be like this easy thing that you do after your workout. Like it's still like max effort, and it's hard, like what we're doing, dumbbell rows over 100 pounds and heavy rows and kind of all those things, kind of getting into it. And it's not just like this light, easy banded work. And don't get me wrong, we still do like those 100-200 rep range of like the try pull downs and things like that. But I think that was one of the big eye-opening things that I had really getting into the Conjugate, was like, oh dude, like I remember seeing, okay, yeah, we're doing a max effort like lift, and then we're gonna do some accessory work. And I'm like, oh, sick, easy session. Like let's just bingo, bango, bongo, done. And it's like, oh, dude, like the accessory work is the meat of that workout. Like I get through like my max effort upper like lift, and then it's like, okay, like I got a road ahead of me now to kind of get through. Yeah, yeah. And now you got a lot ahead of you to kind of get through the rest of it. So I think that's been super beneficial, because like that accessory work is where you really, I think, make those differences. I mean, you're hitting that max lift, but if I just did a max like back squat and then a max bench every week, like I'm not going to get better. It's really made, like those gains are made on that accessory work and kind of hitting those weaknesses, getting the upper back stronger, and things like that. Because obviously you can do it by changing the bar that you're using, but also like just the way you're doing your accessory work, the type of rows that you're doing, because I've learned an infinite amount that you can do.
It's also where we've sometimes been surprised what we found. Like I think about some of the tricep pieces where we're not necessarily seeing it show up exactly on the heavy single, but then an accessory being like, oh, whoa, that's interesting to sort of see that's where you're at for that weight. And that's given us some direction sometimes with, good movements versus ones that hit harder than others. And then given, especially when you're limited by, volume of time with an athlete, then you can start to select what the highest value pieces are. Cause not every accessory piece is created equal, and not every accessory piece, same as mobility, hits every athlete in the same way. And so being able to see those things come up and find them and then build off of them to, move the big fish, which is those 1RMs or compound movements, has been, it's one of the reasons why I love, these days tuning in to like get you through a session. 5 years in, you're plenty capable of doing it all on your own, but it still allows me to sort of like get direction. I'm like, now I spend more of my time like writing little notes or like things I'm thinking about watching you move or where you're at, or just being able, like, it's way less direction now on, hey, take this weight next, on accessory pieces. Like, those things, and more like, oh, like, I think that, like, I write notes in for like our next block, or like what I want to do next week, or, oh, that didn't work out. That was too easy. This would be better if we did this, or combo these two pieces together.
Yeah, and I think like building off that is like, obviously you have this huge database with all like the athletes that you have at your gym, and you get to see where people's numbers are at and kind of see what they're doing on their accessory work. But even people that are, you have a friend that he has a bigger bench than you, and then you're kind of doing all your accessory work, and you can hang with him on 80% of the stuff, but like 20% of it, he's like hitting like way bigger weights than you. It's like, oh, like, I bet you if I can get those numbers up, it's going to correlate to me benching more, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the thing that I've seen like with Jesse and me, because like me and him, like upper body wise, like his lifts are bigger than mine, but in the accessory work, I can hang with them on 90% of the stuff. And then there's like that 10, and then there's like that, like 5 to 10% of things where I'm like, oh, like Jesse actually has a big upper hand here. And I think we've spent a lot of times kind of trying to find ways to like move the needle on that movement pattern, because it might not be like just like even like a different variation of row. Like on one variation I'm really, really strong, and another Jesse's bigger than me, and it's interesting to kind of see those things and see the result of when we do fix that, the correlation to the lifts.
The accessory piece, because we do see a lot of that in the community, and because I think people are realizing more and more conjugate, people, top level athletes like yourself are doing the system. Is I'm sure that as you recognize that breakdown, that limiting factor in the back squat, where a lot of people it's like, oh, I just need to make my back squat stronger, and they just continue to do the same thing. It's like, well, you're still failing at your same limiting factor. So how do you bring that limiting factor up? One of the tools was he wants you to use that transformer bar, set the setting to the front squat, so there's more demand there. I'm sure you also, Jesse, probably took that into account and also programmed some accessory work. Is that something you would say is accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. It fits the puzzle pieces all fit together off of that, right? Like if that's what your primary piece is, whether you're using it as a training like primary piece or a testing primary piece, that accessory work still feeds in that direction, right? Like if you want to improve like upper back, then we're going to, be selective with our 1 rep maxes. In the sense of not just like, I mean, when you find a weakness, everything cannot revolve around that weakness, or that athlete's just going to get hammered on. I mean, there's soft tissue work that needs to be done to like contribute to like allowing an athlete to build especially upper back, to make sure that tissue is being maintained so you can continue to like recover it, hit it hard again. And the selection of maxes might favor upper back, but certainly the accessory work then leans towards that. And the nice thing with some of those patterns is you could feed them on multiple days. Like, bent row also fits on a lower body day if that's direction you're trying to like stack a little more volume on, et cetera,
I think one I'd like to get to, like obviously, get the accessory work's great. And, you get through the max effort, you get the accessory work, and most people that are new to the system are still okay at this point. And then the finisher work comes in. We were talking a little bit about, failure, with the max effort doesn't really happen. Like finisher work is designed, and I've seen some of the ones you've done. Like, gosh, I think the first time Jesse had me do those plank marches with your feet on the foam roller, after he had you do it, I was like, wow, like that looks like the simplest thing. And it's like, there's no, like 3 minutes was unbearable. Like just not getting there, like had to just go to a regular plank hold. How's some of that stuff? Like what are your feelings on the finisher work?
Yeah. I mean, I was just talking about how, like doing like the speed pulls is one of my favorite things, but I think my second favorite thing is like the finisher work, because every single time it's underestimated. I mean, even like the simple thing of like I remember starting out with like just 100, but like now we have like 200 like bottom half sit-ups, and like you lay on the ground, you put a barbell at bench height, and your range of motion's like 12 inches maybe. Like I'm not even sure what it is. And people are like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be so easy. And the next thing you know, their abs are just absolutely cramping. I mean, in CrossFit, we're doing GHDs and toes to bar, and ab mat sit-ups is like the biggest scaled ab piece that you see. And now this, like on paper, is even a scaled version of that, and just getting absolutely ruined by it, I think is always really fun. I think my finisher ab stuff that I did today was 2 rounds, 50 med ball twists, 25 Panora sit-ups, and then 50 bottom half sit-ups for 2 rounds. And it's just like,
So
oh my
simple.
gosh. So it's
Yeah, so
so
simple.
simple, but just so dirty. And I think the thing that's great about it is like, I would say that my core strength is kind of one of the best in the game. I mean, I see core workouts come out. I'm like, dude, my favorite thing is to see like GHDs or toes to bar paired with like anything where you need to brace. And I think that's just where I have such a big advantage on people. And like those finishers, I think are so fun because even people are like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to like walk tomorrow from it. And they 9 times out of 10, like they feel really good. Their abs are like, oh, my abs actually aren't that sore like the next day. And I think that's like really awesome because for one, just being able to like laughing or coughing hurts so bad, but just to get that volume and that strength in correlates so well. And like we do ab finishers like after pretty much every session, it feels like, you know?
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely 3 sessions a week for sure, finishing on abs every time. I think with those two, like, I mean, between that midline work and just the volume of accessory and those sort of pieces that get done is there's an inoculation component that I would say applies to competition, where when you're used to high volume or used to what it feels like to have a ton of blood in the shoulders or be at that edge of fatigue, it's an interesting way of training that is different than just more like CrossFit workouts. At the same time, can also help you be less exposed to the like damage to the tissue from that inside a competition. So, you know, ideally what you'd hope for is the training you're applying to your athlete is the next day they wake up at a competition and they're like tired, sore, but within reason. And being able to go to the warm-up area and see everyone else moving around real slow or having to put in much longer warm-ups. Which is, I mean, warm-ups is a huge volume piece at competition. It always surprises me. Like, I mean, if you got 3 days and 9 workouts, if every warm-up takes you 45 minutes or more, that is a tremendous amount of extra time spent on warm-ups. Shane, do you have someone drilling in the background there?
Not
Is
my
that me?
place.
Maybe. Oh, maybe that's me.
But yeah, on that like warm up piece, I've like trained with multiple other athletes before, and then we get to competition, and I see the amount of rehearsal rounds or things that they do before workouts. I'm just like, dude, you guys don't even do this in your training, so why are you doing it here? You know? And they do it like 9 times, like in a weekend. You're just like, dude, like you are, or starting that their warm up like an hour early, and then like for the last 10, 15 minutes before check-in, they're kind of just standing there, and then they do another little echo bike sprint and get back and sit down. And it's yeah, it's always like really, it's fun. I think just like the planning of things is always less than ideal, especially like every week. Like, don't get me wrong, we practice the lifts and the setups, but also we get to warm up the exact same way every single week for the most part, and kind of have that system dialed down. I mean, even like getting back to like even the max lifts, like people, their warm-ups building up to their max, like, yeah, we'll put the bar at anywhere between 135 and 225. We'll do 3 rounds back and forth of some movements of like 3 to 5 reps each. And then after that, it's 7 singles where people are doing like 10 back squats to start, and then it's like 8, and then 6, then 5, and then 4, and then 3, and then their last couple lifts are just the singles, which I was definitely doing that before Conjugate. It didn't even make sense. I'm like, yeah, Jesse telling me like it doesn't matter what lift we're hitting, like we're hitting pretty much seven lifts to a max. I'm like, so you're telling me like when I max out my bench or my deadlift, we're hitting 7 lifts? And to me, that just didn't make sense in my mind. And I'm sure people listening that don't do that, it sounds pretty crazy, but now it's like, dude, I kind of want to make a little bit less lifts. Like, you know, it feels very, very, very comfortable and very reasonable. And I don't feel like I'm putting myself at risk at all doing those sort of jumps or anything like that. I mean, me and Jesse have even talked about it a little bit. I'm like, so what about like half Thor? Like he's deadlifting like 1,100 pounds, you know,
7.
and to see his last 3 lifts and the jumps that he's making, I'm like, yeah, about like 7 lifts, you know. It's pretty crazy to kind of see like what those guys do, you know.
So it's interesting because Justin has that like conjugate mind now, where it's like everything's about optimizing. You have a plan, set it up ahead of time, like looking for the weakness, looking where you're failing, how do you fix it? Like you're constantly like that conjugate mind is always about optimization, right? Like we want to optimize our warm up, we want to optimize our recovery, we want to optimize our max attempts. You're right. Whether someone's a 300-pound squat or 1,200-pound squat, it's 7 attempts roughly, you know, for most lifters. I think the problem is that people are not good at competing because they're good at training, and they train, or they potentially think they're really good at training, but they train in a certain way, and they show up to a competition and they do all this crazy stuff, or stuff that like Justin will look at and go, well, it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, why are they doing this? They're not an expert in it. And what I mean by that is you max out twice a week. So therefore you compete twice a week minimum. You have to take attempts as if you're in a competition. You have to warm up as if you're in a competition. So you compete twice a week. So when you show up to the actual competition, a few times a year, you have so much experience in it, where that might be the first time that person's hit a true 1 rep maximum, maybe twice in the whole year. Of course they're not going to be good at it. They're not going to be comfortable. They're not going to be confident. But that's why, like, you and Jesse set up a plan for the whole year, and you have a goal, and you just keep micro adjusting to get perfection out of it. And other people train and then show up and try to figure it out. That's cool to see your minds kind of rewired like that now, and the way you're starting to look at things is really neat.
Justin, you were a wrestler, right? Is that what I've heard before? Cross, did you wrestle in high school?
Yeah.
I mean, how's that? I mean, wrestlers seem to be, that's one of the toughest sports I think that there is in high school, conditioning wise, just sport wise. Like, how do you think that's had an impact on CrossFit?
Yeah, I mean, I contribute, like, the way, like, wrestling is one of the biggest things that's helped me in my background, kind of getting to the level that I'm at in CrossFit and just learning how to compete. I mean, honestly, I've always been super competitive, but honestly never was able to kind of really handle like a loss. Board games, I'm quitting before when I see defeat in the future. I'm done,
Mario Kart.
And I think yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh no, I logged off. my Wi-Fi went out. But wrestling kind of was like, there is such a big advantage in being in team sports, but also like individual sports as well, to be able to walk out there on the mat and it's you versus this other guy, and being able to like evaluate a loss and find like the wins and what you can get better at, because being able to be like, hey, like, this guy was just better than me. I wrestled really well, didn't make mistakes, and I lost. Kind of like Shane was saying, like, hey, that was a perfect lift and just ran out of juice. Like, it's just, that's sometimes how it is. But then also to even in a win, like just being able to evaluate myself kind of from like an outside perspective, and watching how I did. And I lost a lot in the very beginning, so it kind of made me really focus on those wins, because especially in a CrossFit weekend, I mean, we're doing anywhere from 9 to 15 events. Like, we ain't winning every single one, and to be able to walk away from a workout like, hey, like, that was awesome. Like, I did absolutely great. Like, Rogue, my favorite workout from that weekend was the run workout. I got 4th in it. Like, and the 3 guys in front of me were a mile ahead of me. Like, I was nowhere near catching them, but like, that was just such an amazing workout from the training that I've done, the execution in the workout, the pacing that I did, and just seeing all that work kind of pay out. Like, that was by far the best workout of the weekend. And that was like the workout, in my opinion, was why I was on the podium, looking back to my other finishes, like I'm not top 10 in running right now. Now I am, baby, but I have not been. And I think just being able to kind of have that kind of outlook on things and be able to go back to the drawing board, work on those things that you need to get better at, and then seeing those results like pay off, being like, oh, dude, like, I had no defense. Like, every time this guy shot on me, he took me down. Like, I was not able to stop anything. And then to go back that week and just work on like defenses, and then be able to go to the next weekend of matches and be like, oh, I was able to defend actually really well. Like, that worked. And I think that's a lot of kind of how CrossFit's worked for me, because I tried to qualify for the teenage games and never made it. Like, I volunteered at the games, tried to make the teenage, never made it. I did regionals for 2 years, didn't make the games, and finally qualified in 2020, where I did not expect that to happen. But all we did was kind of evaluate me and my workouts and try to be better and I can, instead of like looking at where the field's going to be and just coming out at the pace that is going to win this workout and then just dropping off. It's being able to look at those 15 events and be like, I executed the best I could on every single one of them. And by the end of the weekend on event number 15, let's say I got beat by one spot and was like off the podium. Like, well, maybe I did that workout really well, but on event number 3 in the weekend, I coasted it into the finish line and got beat by 3 points, you know? And I think that's where we've kind of been able to lock in, and we kind of say like die for points, you know, because it's accumulation of the weekend. And I think that's really easy to see when you like are kind of in the moment of a workout. But then when you look back on a full weekend, we always do competition briefs and kind of go through workout by workout, what went well, what went bad. And it's kind of helped me like build on that like every single year.
Your first games too. You're the only one. The event you won was the last one, right? And I feel like that's where
Yeah.
Adam's probably got the best. You know, I mean, Adam seems to be just one of the best tacticians that I've seen in this space, and you know, having that because that was basically you went from regionals, you started working with Adam, and that was the Granite Games you qualified, and then you know went to the games. You went to the games that year. Am I correct? Is that?
Yeah, I went to Granite Games. That was 3 weeks after training with Adam. And I was in a qualifying spot to go to the games in the last workout and then bombed it.
Okay,
And
that's the one I
I had to
thought.
get like top 15 to qualify, and I got like 17th in that
Okay,
workout. And it was on sandbag cleans, and I just did sandbag cleans for like 4 months and then qualified 5 months later at the Filthy 150 in Ireland for my first games. And just like the jump that I made in 5 or 6 months working with Adam was like, I was already like really fit. I worked really, really hard, but I just had no direction in like what I was doing. He'd be like, "Hey man, like you're bad at rowing." And I was like, What, really?" And he's like, "Yeah, look at like every single rowing workout you've ever done. Like you're not like your placings are bad." I'm like, "Oh, didn't really notice that," you know, like it was like, it seems so simple sometimes when you see it, but to be able to just like really like break down workouts. And even for me, like one of the biggest changes that like we did, and like, hey, like what's a good time in this workout, and then be able to like look at a workout that's for time and try to guess what I'm going to get, you know. It turned into like a game that we did every single time. But like a 5-minute effort is very different than like a 7.5-minute effort in a workout. And to be able to like know that when you're going into a workout, like, okay, like I'm going to be in this thing for about 7 to 8 minutes. So know that when you're in the first minute starting on the machine, you know, and just learning how to pace and know yourself. And I think when you look back at like some of my finishes at the games, like I normally come in strong at the very end because that's where a lot of people are dying off, and just learning how to pace. Like my first games, I only won one event, and that was the very last one. My second games, or it's the second time I won, I didn't win any events, and I won the CrossFit Games, which is still pretty crazy to think. I'm not the guy that's out there winning events, but that's just like the epitome of like, hey, it's 15 events and it's the accumulation of all of them. And that's how you're going to be like at the top. And I think it's just been so big for us, like the execution, the game plans, and just getting every single thing that you could. Like Shane said a while ago when we were maxing out the squats, like, hey, you make a 25-pound jump and miss, like you just missed out on a whole bunch of spots where if you just made a 10-pound jump, even you probably beat like 3 or 4 people. Yes, that 25-pound jump might have boosted you from 15th to the top 5, but now you're in 20th because you made a 25-pound jump and just like completely effed yourself, you know? And just making those smart decisions time in and time out, every single workout across the weekend. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be pumped on the result, because you look at a lot of these athletes, especially in the men's field right now, like the top 8-7 people have a chance to be on the podium at every single competition. You look at their performances, there's normally a workout that someone effed up, you know? And luckily when at Rogue, when I messed up that pegboard workout, I was super mad. It was a really hard workout for me to move past, but being able to look back and like, hey, like that wasn't a fitness mistake. I'm still really fit. Like I know the rest of the workouts I can compete in. My mindset going into that workout was I'm going to win. Like this is like one of my best workouts of the weekend. And from the very first pegboard, I kind of had the realization that that was not going to be the case, and being able to reevaluate my plan and be like, okay, like I need to get every single point that I can. Just because I thought I was going to win this workout, I'm not. It doesn't mean I'm going to quit. Like I need to make sure I get every single point I could. And when I finished that workout, I was like, yes, that workout went awful. It was not what I thought was going to happen, but I couldn't have gone any faster in that moment. And I think telling myself was those things was the reason why I was able to move past it and still finish the weekend strong, and was still able to get a second place finish, which was something that I was super proud about. So to be able to like I said, like just evaluate those workouts, those wins, those losses does make a big difference.
Faves of all the things to finish out with? Favorite back squat, especially bar?
Man, we don't do it much anymore, but I always say the 16-inch camber was just one of my like favorite bars that we've done. I just feel like it's a strong lift for me. I remember the first time I did it, Jesse was surprised with what I hit, which was probably one of the reasons why I really liked it. But just the feel of it, and it takes a lot of other people for a ride sometimes.
Mhm.
And it tends to not take me for a ride, so it's pretty fun to lift with other people on that bar. But yeah, I'd say the 16-inch camber has been pretty fun. I like that bar a lot.
Bench press?
I'd say the probably for like the same similar reason, like the CB4 bar that we got from Rogue, just because for one, you can change it from like straight grip to angled, which I just love, like a bar that you can get multiple stuffs out, because I already have 30 barbells at my gym. So to have something that I can kind of get some variation with, but also that bar, they ended up changing it. The new one is freaking awesome because you can lock it to where there's no bearings in it, and it's like kind of just like a straight bar with, so the weights don't move. But the one that I have doesn't have that feature, so it gets pretty shaky. And it was kind of one of those things. The first time we did it, I was like, "Oh, this is impossible! Like this bar was not made right." And now that we've been able to use it more and more, like it's definitely like a technique to it. And I think I love the bars that kind of give me a challenge in the beginning, and then you kind of get to figure it out, and then you get to bring some new people in on it and watch them do it. So yeah, I'd say like that. The CB4 bar is pretty fun.
I now live in a construction zone, apparently. I think they're
Naturally.
pulling the tiles from upstairs, and it is shockingly loud. So I'm kind of clicking in and out here. But favorite accessory for lower and upper?
Favorite accessory for, I'd say, I mean, I guess I can go for either of them, but I'll say it for upper. I've just really loved like seal rows. I feel like I'm really strong at them, and I feel like there's a really good correlation to kind of like what I do in CrossFit with them, and especially being able to like change the different bars that we can use for them. But even just like a straight bar seal row, I find super valuable. Really like that. And then for lower, I've had a lot of fun with the Tsunami bar. It's been a great bar to use. We've been doing like 4 sets of like 10-ish reps on the 2-minute. And I bought one because we were kind of not sure how we were going to use it. And now I have all 3 of them. And man, they're absolutely great. I mean, the way that it makes my legs feel, and then be able to like grease the groove, be in perfect position, and not let that bar control you, has been something that's really fun. And also being able to have other people do it with me is also very, very fun. So yeah, that Tsunami bar is pretty awesome. And every time I post it on social media, people just think I'm doing it for the views. But man, that is one of my favorite bars to use, especially for kind of building that leg endurance for me, especially when we're doing high volume squatting.
You know, it's interesting. So, like, using different bars, right? You have they push you in different positions. The bar wants to go where it wants to go. And in powerlifting, I always tell people, I'm like, your job is to put the bar and have the technique that you're supposed to have. Don't let the bar win. That is the fight, right? In a squat, if the bar puts you where you want to go, you're not going to like where you go. But the problem is when people don't have enough variation, they don't see that. So, like for you, you're talking about you like trying a different bar, seeing the challenge, figuring it out, optimizing its use, and so you like a hard, challenging bar, and that's a different thought process than most people have, right? Most people don't have enough variation, or they try something that's really difficult, like then they avoid it, like that bar's weird, I don't want anything to do with it. Where you take it like a challenge, but then that's just one more skill set you take when you go to the games. It's one more thing. Like, who knows what kind of apparatus Rogue is going to come out with, right? But the fact is, it doesn't really matter because you've adapted to as many different variations and options are there available to you. So you're going to adapt at a faster rate of speed than everybody else. While everybody else is kind of, oh, this is kind of a ridiculous thing. Doesn't matter if it's ridiculous or not. It's in the competition. The only thing we have to do is win or lose. That's our options,
Yeah.
right?
Man, and that's such a big part of competing too. I mean, I have loved sitting in briefings where they brief us a workout and they announce a new movement, and just looking around at all the athletes that are just pissed that like we have to do this thing. And it's like, guys, like You think arguing with Dave Castro is going to get you, you think he's going to change what we're doing? Like, there's no chance. Like, this is what's happening. Let's go figure it out. And like, people don't make that mindset shift. And then they take it all the way through their warm up saying, this is stupid, this and that. And then it goes out there and it shows on the competition floor with some, like, that's 9 times out of 10, some of my best finishes is like, I remember at the games, they, like the max sandbag, the, this being able to go back, look at videos and just try to figure it out. I was like, dude, I love this challenge right now. Whereas everyone else is just mad that we're doing it. It's like, dude, guys, let's figure this out. I mean, I know it wasn't powerlifting style, but when we had the freestanding handstand push-ups that got released at the games, we had like 45 minutes before doing that event. And everyone was so irritated. It was paired with deadlifts. I didn't do a single deadlift before that workout. My first deadlift was at 405 on the competition floor because I just spent 45 minutes. Like, I don't care if I fatigue myself out. Like, I got to figure out how to do these things, you know, and I ended up almost winning that workout. So those things and just being able to adapt on the fly and especially being comfortable, like, and accepting that challenge to figure it out is something that's really fun in training. The variation that we do in CrossFit, especially in like the conjugate stuff we do, is one of the reasons why I love training so much, because every day is a little bit different. Every day has a little bit of a new challenge and it's new and you got to figure it out and get to have some fun with it. So
Last one, favorite abs, and then least favorites.
Ooh, favorite abs. I mean, Jesse knows my least favorite. Dude, honestly, like this, like the simple, like honestly, right now, I'd say one of my favorite is just like even like PVC back paddles, like on the GHD. It's so simple, but I told Jesse, I'm like, these is one of like the hardest abs for me, at least, to do. I mean, I think, like I said, my abs are pretty strong and I feel pretty good at most things that we do, but just simple PVC back paddles. Ellie always, my girlfriend, gets mad at me. She's like, you're barely even moving. I was like, trust me, my abs are burning right now. So yeah, I would just like PVC back paddles is one of my favorites right now. My least favorite, which I just don't like them, but single arm dumbbell snatches on a bench. I don't know if you guys have done them. Jesse figured these things out like a couple years ago, and like you're on your, like in a row position on a bench and you touch the dumbbell on the ground and then you pull it up into a snatch and then go back down and you just get rotations in them. Those things are just hard. I finish them and I feel like I just did a CrossFit workout. So those get put in for punishment sometimes.
I was going to say, careful what you say, because you know you're probably going to see those next week or next wave.
Oh, trust me, I know. It's been too long since I've seen them in my programming.
All right, dude. Thanks for making it happen. It is a sound nightmare over here. So I think we'll wrap at that, man. I really appreciate it coming on. Stoked. Episode 20. By the time this airs, it'll be into December and getting close to Christmas times. So thanks for the time. Yeah. And we'll catch all you guys later.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks.
No problem.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah. Thanks for talking to you again. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, boys.
Conjugate Nation Podcast.